If you're enjoying the Heath Geeks Book Club podcast, we'd appreciate if you hit the subscribe button, leave a like, rating, or review, whichever your preferred podcatcher platform allows.
This episode's been sponsored by Soft Golf. Full swing golf with big balls, big clubs, big holes that light up at night, and big fun. For all you local listeners, we're located at Tanglewood Park next to the dog park. And you can find us at softgolf.net or call us at 302-757-5927.
Welcome to the Heath Geeks Book Club podcast. Listen in as Kristen Norton and Eleanor Russell review all those great health and wellness books you've been wanting to read or you have read and want to talk about. Here's Kristen and Eleanor.
Hello, everybody. I'm a health geek, and Kristen Norton's a health geek, but we are going to have some fun today. And we found another health geek out there in our community, and we've invited Carolyn Bennett-Sullivan to join us. Can you say hello, Carolyn?
Hey, everybody. I'm so happy to be here today.
And you know why I think she's fun? Because her business is fun.
It's big fun.
It is.
With big balls, big clubs, and big holes.
Absolutely. And what's it called?
Soft golf.
Oh, well, and Kristen, have you played soft golf yet?
I have. I took my mom and my aunts to play one Halloween, and they were all dressed up, and it was a ball.
Yeah, so I'm telling you, we want to promote fun, and we're going to read a book, and we're going to talk about how important fun is in our health. But we're just thrilled that we have this exciting new adventure in our community that we hope will spread to other communities because it's a bunch of fun. So the book that we're going to be reviewing is called The Power of Fun, How to Feel Alive Again by Catherine Price. And you may remember that we've read another one of Catherine Price's books.
Yeah, she's also the author of How to Break Up with Your Phone.
Yeah, so we kind of think, is she our second read? I'm trying to think if we've read anybody else's.
I think so.
I do too. So Catherine,
other than the myth that you did, the supplement myth,
Dr. Cheney.
Yeah,
okay,
but
all right.
Those were back to back, so it wasn't. I thought they were more of a package deal.
Okay. Well, Catherine, we're excited to be reviewing your second book here. You are an award-winning science journalist and speaker and author of several books. You've been on lots of television shows. You have been in lots of newspapers. Catherine has a website. She's got a bibliography in this book that is substantial. It goes on for several pages. And she references lots of scientific journals as well as some of the popular press. But I'm really impressed when our authors do go into the scientific literature and back their stuff up. She has footnotes, and I think the footnotes are a lot of fun to read. Mm-hmm. Do either of you all have a reaction to the way the book is structured? Because it's going to tell us about what fun is. What is it, and then how do we have fun? What do we do about that? So
I love the fact that she identified and differentiated between true fun and fun.
Fake fun?
Fake fun. So, going back to her book, Break Up with Your Smartphone or Break Up with Your Cell Phone, talking about how we can get hypnotized, basically, by what we think is fun. But when we really look at it, it's really not fun. And the true fun is getting back to that connection, that flow, that fun that truly lights us up.
Playfulness
that fills us up with genuine joy and not just this stuff like scrolling Facebook.
And what she says is true fun isn't optional. It's really a health requirement. And, this thing about how to feel alive again on her cover jacket, I don't like that because I don't feel dead. So I've been thinking, well, am I odd?
But like Catherine says, there's a difference between living and living.
There you go.
So it's not how to feel alive back from the dead. It's, bring vibrance back into your life.
I mean, we're not those Walking Dead.
Yeah.
So, hey, if you hear that voice, that's Tim, our man,
that's
the producer.
Hi.
Another, what would we call him? A growing health geek?
I'm a health geek. Yeah. I'm a geek for you guys.
And he's also a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I try to be that.
Yeah.
Yeah, driving into the studio, I said, I bet Tim's going to have a lot to chime in on this one.
Yeah, I'm
He's
thinking
a fun
so, too.
guy.
Yeah.
I'm like a mushroom. Yeah, I'm a fun guy.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, moving on from that, because it is fun guy season. But tell me, you're not eating them.
I am not.
You're not smoking them.
I am not.
Okay, good. All right.
That was kind.
All right, so back to true fun, not fake fun, which we could have some discussion there about addictions and things too. But what do you think it is? Is it all the time that we can be in the state of fun, or is it like she says it's an experience that has a beginning and an end?
Mm-hmm.
You know, which I think is a kind of neat concept too, because a lot of us think life is roses, and if we're not having a life that's beautiful all the time, something's wrong with us.
Right. And I can't find it in my notes, but I wrote down how she said, I'm not saying that your entire life has to be one big ball of fun.
Exactly.
It's just knowing what true fun is, being able to identify it, being able to plan for it, and put it into your life instead of the doom scroll, like Carolyn, you said. We think is fun.
The doom scroll.
We're like, I'm just going to relax and watch Netflix or scroll on my phone. And then you don't feel any more energized. You just feel more dead.
Yeah.
And I think, part 1 in her book is about what fun is, why we feel dead inside. And she kind of goes into a lot that was in the How to Break Up with Your Phone book.
Yeah, but I think some of the stuff that I picked up in there that I thought was really something to talk about this morning, a little bit anyway, because I think we want to have a longer conversation about this book, because fun is one of those things that we've just kind of forgotten about in American society. We are so outcome driven and efficiency oriented, and the satisfaction has dropped off. And I think the statistics in our health reports are that we're not feeling very good here, and we have a lot of mental health crises.
I agree. And you look at the level of stress that so many children and teenagers have, and it's like, what have they taken out of school? Well, they've taken out art, they've taken out PE, and it's all about this test scores
Numbers.
and and that's not life. And that's one of the things that I really loved about this book is what I believe she's really talking about is being fully engaged in your life, having appreciation, being consciously aware every day of the choices you make, and being deliberate about creating a life that is fulfilling, where you're adding that fun, even if it's 15 minutes of something that brings you enjoyment on a daily basis, making that a priority.
Yeah, and how, as parents, do we influence our children and our systems that take care of our children to encumber that? And I think one of the things that disturbed me was she had a comment about some of the high rates of depression and anxiety in teenagers, especially those attending schools that are feeders for our elite colleges. And I thought, our best and brightest kids are the ones that are highest risk. And that can't be good for our society.
Absolutely
But
not.
that's kind of like too far down the road. It has to start when they're younger. Now, Kristen, you've got young children, and you're having fun. You're out camping. I think I saw some pictures. Yeah. You're doing play with them. And how far apart are they in age? I mean, not to get too personal.
2 years.
Yeah, so they can kind of be friends to each other, too.
Sometimes.
Because my grandsons are 10 years apart.
Oh,
and
okay.
so, I've got a developmentally split group, and it makes it kind of tough when we want to play.
Each of them are basically only children.
Exactly, yeah.
And my sister was
Did I
7
say
years
10?
younger than.
They're only 5. My kids
Oh.
were 10 years apart.
Yeah.
Sorry, I misspoke.
Yeah, so my sister is 7 years younger than me, and we were both basically only children because.
Developmentally, you're
Yeah,
separate.
yeah, absolutely.
The things that interested you are too difficult for the younger one, and vice
Yeah.
versa.
And even though we're the same generation, there's a lot of generational things that are separated between the two of us. So it's just an interesting dichotomy, I guess.
Well, it's starting as young as kids, but then when we get into the workplace, it's productivity. And then we disguise busyness for productivity, right? We think because we're doing something, we're doing what we're supposed to do, we're getting that promotion, but not every task is actually productive.
Or necessary.
Or necessary. So she calls that out too, right? Like, we're just exhausting ourselves until what point? Mm-hmm. And we decide what to do based on money and productivity, right? Is this worth my time? And her argument is, well, you might think fun is not worth your time, but the health benefits, the focus and the flow that it's going to give and bring creativity to your life, we've got to make room for fun.
Well, and if you don't have fun, then you are in essence shortening your life. So what good is it to live it if you're not living it to its fullest?
That's sort of an elevated thought. You have to come up out of the weeds to even have that thought.
True.
You know,
Yeah.
That's why we're having this podcast, to talk about it and to help other people start pausing and saying, oh, I haven't had fun. And I remember I was asked one time, maybe by a marital partner, if I even remembered how to have fun, you know? And I think it was an accurate assessment. I had gotten so absorbed in my professional career, responsibilities, you know, community commitments. All of a sudden, you're doing things that are supposed to give you fun, that fake fun that Carolyn just mentioned, and you find out, I don't like any of this stuff, but I'm doing it anyway. And it saps your whole being. Well, at the beginning of the book, again, she digs into how did we get here? You know, this idea of how does our brain work and how does our physiology work? And we've all heard in many of our books about the dopamine and cortisol fight that's going on. Mm-hmm. And what are the triggers for the dopamine that cause you to fall into the fake fun? Because when you ask your friends what do they do for fun, what do they tell you? Do you ever ask them?
Well, I ask my clients sometimes, and they'll say, I scroll on my phone or I watch some TV shows at the end of the day.
Crack up a
Sometimes
bottle
they'll
of wine?
say, I will hang out with friends, but it's almost always I'll scroll a little bit and I'll watch TV.
I'm just too exhausted to do anything else.
Yeah.
Do you ever ask people what? I mean, Carolyn, your business is fun,
Right.
so I'm sure you're asking people, "What do you do for fun? Like, come try us."
Well,
Or
we
not.
do. I mean, typically our customers have a lot of fun when they come out to play. But I don't ask them, well, what else do you do for fun? Because
You want them to be there.
I want them to be at softball having fun.
Yeah, don't go someplace else. Come here.
Right. But, you know, I do know with some of my friends, you know, they watch movies, have some wine, or eat, get together with friends. And that's where the engagement and community comes in.
And the laughter.
And the laughter.
The laughter, yeah. Well, so they say there's an economy out there that's playing on us that we don't even admit to, and what their product is our attention. You know, we are giving them our attention for free, and there are these algorithms that are working against us, and so we get this. Did you see that word called time confetti in here? I'd never heard that. She was talking about how our time is polluted, and it's confetti because we're flitting between so many things, and our brain can't really handle that. It's like charging itself and getting those little dopamine hits every time we use that equipment that's designed like a slot machine. Very addictive, kind of evil like motivation of these companies. And if you've seen The Social Dilemma, have either of you all seen The Social Dilemma? It's a documentary about somebody's phone's ringing. Is it mine?
Not mine.
Yeah, well, okay. So anyways, it's about the people that started some of the social media companies and have now divorced themselves from it and are not advocating for it in their homes and causing us to say maybe it shouldn't be in anybody's home. But yet we're all doing it. We're giving them our attention.
And even in the book that we replayed recently, Unwinding Anxiety, he talks about how like they realize that just the randomness of the notifications will catch our brain's attention. And so it's novel and it's random, and so we are addicted. And it's interesting. You think of addiction and you think of a user, right?
Yeah.
Well, what do they call us when
Users.
Users.
And I, you know what this book made me think about was how much or how often, if I'm working on the laptop, for example, how I'll pick up my phone to see if there's been a text or a call or something. And I'm like, this is really non-productive. So I've started turning the phone, turning it off and turning it over so I can't see it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's
oh God, Carolyn, you're talking to me. When I was reading this book, I thought, look at what you're doing.
Well,
flip. God, she's
just
talking
like
to me.
she talks about multitasking in this book too. There
Which we can't
truly
do.
is no multitasking.
Agreed.
You're just diverting your focus very rapidly, and so it's the same thing. I'm like, what am I doing?
And why?
And why? And so the book really hit home for me.
Yeah. We trick ourselves into thinking that we're good at multitasking. And then she points out the research that you're not.
Nope.
The people who are focused on one thing are doing it better than you. You think so or not? So, but easier said than done, right? I mean, I go out on my walks to walk the dog and I find myself checking the phone like, oh, obviously I don't want to be here. So I'm checking my phone trying to distract myself.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's bad stuff out there, I'm telling you. At least
But
in
she
my
has
opinion.
the antidote, doesn't she?
Well, yeah, but I was going to ask you something about WWW because that came up in
Yeah.
her other book, but she refers to it here. And so when Carolyn is, worried about just flipping the phone over, what's that WWW stuff?
Yeah, what for,
Yeah.
why now, and what else? Mm-hmm. I mentioned this in the How to Break Up with Your Phone. I loved it so much. It's easy to remember. And so I actually use it with my clients when they go for a snack or they just need to think about the reasons they're eating. And it works great for both, for the phone, what for. So, what for me, it's always like when my brain gets tired or it's hard to focus. So then why now? Well, I've been at this for 40 minutes and maybe I need a break. And what else could I do? Well, I could maybe go outside and just take a couple deep breaths and look at the birds. So it's a good strategy to try. I've used it a couple of times.
Yeah. Well, they say true fun is playfulness, connection, and flow. And fake fun is not that. And so we're probably going to develop some of those ideas about the three, like Boolean algebra things. But she talks about things that drive us to fake fun are things like novelty, reward, and unpredictability. And you all mentioned that randomness thing.
Yep.
So that's unpredictable, and our brains like that.
Right.
And there's something evolutionarily programmed into us to like to go, oh, that's different. I need to pay attention to it. And the reward thing is, that dopamine hit where you just are kind of saying, that felt so good, I want to do that again. But then she said there's sort of like a set point area in there that, you got to go beyond that after a point. You need more and more. Ooh. And then novelty, anything that's new. And so I think one of the things that I keep hoping to do is find something new on my phone because I'm beginning to get a little bored with what I'm doing. And so I go to it. And it's like, I lived for many years without a phone. And I kind of hate taking care of it. You got to feed it. You got to keep it with you. And if you forget it, you got to go find it. It's like a kid, But I keep this freaking thing with me. I was like, oh, sorry, didn't mean to misspeak. All right. So, what do you think connection is? This shared experience. What values that got for us?
Well, we talked about a whole book about the health effects of being socially connected, and the fact that there's this.
What book was that?
What was it called?
Was that
The Good Life?
The Good Life, yep.
And she did refer to that in this book. She brought him
did?
up, yes.
Oh, and how we have a loneliness epidemic. So we're connected, so to speak, on our phones, but it's not really true connection. And she talks about things that researchers have looked at, like the amount of times we smile to each other when we're on our phone. Right? If you're on your phone, you're not looking up as much, you're not smiling, and so you're not giving that open invitation to connect with other people, with strangers, in which we learned in The Good Life how important that just random stranger reactions can be to your mood and your daily life experience. So the phone is zapping that connectiveness from us. And then fun. And so I'm an introvert, and I think I've said it a couple times on the podcast, and she says, even for introverts, fun often involves other people. So when you're connected, you're likely having some fun, or at least it's a part of it. There's that Venn diagram of connectedness, playfulness, and flow.
Yeah. So, yeah, that, yeah.
How about playfulness? That's a big
Are you
part
a fun
of it.
Are you all fun people? You know, that was one of the questions that she asked us.
Right. Would someone call you fun?
yeah.
And I'm like,
I'd call him fun.
I've been
Definitely
called-
would call him.
Definitely is fun. You're fun, Eleanor.
You think
Christian,
so?
You're fun.
Because I don't think of myself as fun. I'm so happy that you said that.
I'm fun on occasion.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are.
I can be really fun, but then
Yeah.
I can also be really serious. And I catch myself sometimes like, man, I need to lighten up.
Uh-huh.
And again, this book helped me recognize that, like, I need to lighten up some, you know, and be more playful. Playful is so much fun when you have that bantering conversation with people.
Bantering. Yeah. What is bantering?
To me, bantering is like when you're going back and forth, whether it's
Jibbing and jabbing.
jibbing, jabbing a little bit, or it could be flirting, bantering, you know. But it's that sort of high energy, engaged conversation that goes back and forth quickly. You know, that's can be very playful and very fun. And I think about that, and I'm like, gee, I don't really do a whole lot of that in my life right now.
Oh, well, good. Maybe you will.
Yes, and
Yeah.
like she says in the book, this is not just a one-shot thing. This takes practice. This is something you need to make a priority. I love the prompts that she has in some of the chapters where you answer the questions, you know, and figure out who your fun magnets are and your fun squad. Yeah, the book, she really says, you know, to be intentional about this, that this is not going to be a one-shot thing, that you have to make a commitment to it.
Yeah, some of the prompts, if you're having trouble figuring out what you like to do for fun, she has a list of prompts here like, I'm interested in learning to blank. I'm interested in learning about blank. I'm curious, because she talks about curiosity here too. I'd like to try blank. I'd like to get better at something. It might sound silly, but I'd love to blank. When I was a child, I enjoyed blank. You know, she takes us back to that childhood memory. Things that I used to do with my free time but don't anymore. Now, when you're saying lighten up, maybe you've lost some things you used to do. Things I've always wanted to do and learn but supposedly don't have time for. Ooh. And I feel alive when. And, you know, did any of you all take that little inventory and complete it? Because it was kind of tricky to answer those questions.
yeah, I did my best to do that, but I agree. I think I need to put more time into exploring it because I think it's really valuable to know those things. She has, you know, it may seem silly just talking about fun and having this whole podcast and a whole book about fun, but she has this great analogy in here that, like, why are we even talking about this? Well, imagine that you are ravenous. Your stomach is growling and you have no idea what that is for. You have no idea that food can cure that. And you don't know how to find food or what you even like. Right? So that's, if we don't know what true fun is, we don't know what we're missing, we don't know how to get, we don't know the antidote to loneliness and to feeling dead inside. And we don't, so I love part 2, which is all about exploring what is your fun. What are your fun magnets, your fun squad, your fun factors, your fun destroyers? So I think we could all kind of explore those areas with our audience, and they can have some fun takeaways in that space.
Did you do the fun audit? I did it and I flunked it. Let me just read you a couple of things, because you're supposed to find your baseline. It's like, having fun is a priority for me personally. I understand what fun means to me. Like you were just saying, if you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah.
Right? Friends would describe me as a fun person. That's where I put a 1, and you said I can maybe adjust that, so I will. I can identify the characteristics that make certain experiences feel fun to me. I can easily name 5 activities or settings in which or people with whom I often have true fun. Tim, you got 5 people?
I do.
I had 3. I make it a point to incorporate these activities and myself in those settings and spend time with other people on a regular basis. Anyway, she's got this audit in here that I really think it's worth taking because it stops you. And you say, you know what? This book is something to pay attention to. My life may be a little off base.
Right. And kind of this is what Tim was saying earlier. She has this paraphrase from Henry Thoreau. She says, the price of anything is the amount of life you exchange for it.
Oh, yeah.
So that questionnaire, that audit is like, oh, what am I doing with my life if I don't remember how to have fun or I'm not. So I've really enjoyed this book. And you mentioned that I'm having fun with the kids. Well, it's been reading this book that has prompted me to be, because if you ask them, I'm not a fun person.
You're the mother.
Their dad is the fun one.
Right.
Yeah. But who was it when we went to the lake that was the first one to jump out on the dock with them to get them to have fun?
Yeah.
Me.
Yeah, good.
And
Did you feel like a kid again?
a little bit, yeah. And I don't think I would have done it if it weren't for this prompt to, oh, hey, you need to have fun. It's worth it. So,
Fun is always worth it.
that's right. So she has you get the baseline of how much fun you're having now. She wants you to analyze what you do for fun. So we talked about the junk fun and the true fun. And so she even says put an X and a Y axis and all the things that you do for fun. And on the X is how much energy. No, wait. Whatever. On one line is how much energy it gives you or takes away from you. And then how much enjoyment you actually get out of it. And she has an example in here, and it kind of cracked me up because I could relate. So on one side, that like what sounds fun or what you think you do for fun, but doesn't really fill you up with energy or is that enjoyable? Kids' birthday parties. I have started to dread those. So she kind of labels those kind of things that are not actually enjoyable as sources of stress. And she has scrapbooking on here. Arguing on Twitter, compulsive email checks, and doom scrolling.
And that's totally her picture.
This is
Someone
her,
else
yeah.
might have scrapbooking over in that other quadrant. Because that's
Exactly.
where it lights them up. Yeah, so this very personal history audit that you need to do.
Agreed.
But it's really fun to look at the ones she's shared as an
Yes.
example. It's
Yeah.
like,
So like hers that are potential for true fun, I wouldn't. So that's just a testament to what you just said. So like playing music with people, no, I can't play music, but I can listen to music with other people and that would be fun. Learning about plants, watching stand-up comedy, singing harmonies.
Nah.
Yeah. So she has you do that, the things you do for fun, so that you can really just focus on the things that give you energy and are actually enjoyable. Stop kind of being in that dopamine cycle.
and
of
with
just,
the cortisol thing, too, because, I
Yeah.
mean, you get stressed in there. And then the next thing is to keep a fun journal.
Yes.
And she also brought up the passion or the planner industry. You know, how the planning industry has gotten involved in helping us think about fun. Some of them now have a little block there. So what did you do for fun today? You know, or circle the mood. Do you have a happy face today or not? So there are people out there trying to nudge us into paying attention to this. But I do like her structure. She says, do the audit, establish a baseline, do the history, and then keep this fun journal and refer to it.
Okay, and then she has Spark.
Yeah, and before you start Spark, I do want to just call attention to something we've been doing here. We've been laughing today. And that's good because she also had another little diagram in her book with a straight line that had enjoyment and true fun because she said they're not the same thing. You can enjoy stuff, but it may not be in the zone, you know, in the flow with the connection and the playfulness. It's when it gets there. But the little point that you can tell if you're having fun is you laugh. Laughter is at the point where it becomes true fun. So we're having fun here, guys. This is cool. I like
Great.
it.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and I don't think we fully developed what her definition of true fun was. I think we got a little bouncing around. But so playfulness, meaning not really caring about the results, right? Not being a perfectionist and not worrying about judgment from other people.
Or winning or losing.
Or winning or losing.
You're doing it just for the pure enjoyment of doing.
Yes.
Of doing whatever you're doing.
And that's, what you do. A lot of people go to play golf not to keep score, but to
Hit the ball.
Just hit the ball and
What
have
happens? They go,
some time out, have time with friends to just enjoy what they're doing.
And be outside.
Exactly.
Yeah. So the second thing is flow, where you're truly present and you're engaged. So it's often this immersive experience where it's so intrinsically enjoyable that you rather not be anywhere else, and you're not even thinking about anything else. You're just in the moment.
And you remember when we talked about the blue zones and about the Okinawans? She talks about this Ikigai. I can't say it. Ikigai is the Japanese flow concept. And it doesn't have to cost a lot of money, but it's like the reason for being. The whole reason we're here is to be
The raison d'etre.
Yeah, the raison d'etre. Yeah, so and it's that worthwhile life that this fun brings us. And I thought that was a neat word to put in our vocabulary, because we have that other one about moving away from the table.
When
we're full.
Harahachibu.
Yeah, 80% full.
Well, and the fact that flow is important got me excited, because one of the very first, the very first book we read, How to Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty, he was saying some of the same things that Catherine Price says, like, how you spend your time is what you value, and how you spend your time is how you live your life. And if you're on the phone or, worrying about other things, then that's how you're spending your time. And he also said, that the way around that is to remove the distractions. But his answer was meditation. And try as I might, and I want to be a really good meditator, I am not, but I can have fun. That seems so much easier and worthwhile to me, because I'm not only getting that flow state, that focus that you can get with meditation, but you're also connected to other people, which is the third part: playfulness, flow, and then connection. So that's what true fun is, when all those things are present. So if meditation fails, just go out and have some fun. Right?
Exactly. And maybe that is a form of meditation.
Exactly.
Because there's no one right way to meditate. You can meditate a lot of different ways. So it is being that focus, that flow. I also think of flow as when you just lose complete track of time, like you're so engaged, and like 2 hours go by and you're like, oh my gosh, like.
However, she just looked at her hand like she was looking at her cell phone,
Yeah.
which is one of the things that we say about, the cell phone is all of a sudden 45 minutes are gone.
Right. But what are you doing in that 45 minutes? Are you in a state of flow, or are you just scrolling?
Mesmerized, and your brain is...
And getting hypnotized by the scrolling, the doom scroll.
Right. And she calls that out too, just as the way she calls fake fun. It's a fake focus, or what does she call it? Fake, I don't know. But she says that, right? Your phone or the Netflix, the time that's lost for that is not the same as being in flow, true flow.
Yeah, she says if we don't know what true fun is, we're left with a vacuum. That would be what I would say with a phone, and no idea of how to fill it. And so these app companies have an economic incentive to take advantage of that vacuum, and they do it, and it's awful. But she says that if we can get past that, we can flourish. And she said there are 5 elements of flourishing that I think are kind of good to think about too. It's that positive emotion that you all talked about. Feel good. And then you're engaged, and engagement means, you're interacting with something, but it's a positive relationship, where I think maybe some of the stuff on the phone has a lot of negative connotations, comparison, and all these things that they say we're doing subconsciously that's causing our teenagers to say, I'm not perfect, I'm not worthy, I can't make it, I'm not going to do it, and then I'm depressed, ooh. And then does it have meaning? So whatever we're doing, the meaning, I guess, would be developing the relationships too. And then accomplishment, a positive accomplishment. And then if you've got all that met, you're flourishing. You're having that worthwhile life.
Yes. And it's true fun is that focus, and it reduces stress. It leaves you rejuvenated and refreshed. It demands that we live. I like this. I wrote this down verbatim. Fun demands that we live life directly, authentically.
Authentically.
Thank you. Goodness. Without worrying about what a possible audience might look like or think, which is what we do on social media. We're worried about how many likes we're going to get and whatever.
Right. And so much about social media, and I've really stepped back from social media. It's that fake persona. People, my life is perfect. My life is always great. And it's not reality.
It's baloney.
It is baloney. And so and I think that's where a lot of people struggle, because they compare themselves to that and say, oh gosh, I'm a failure. My life isn't this beautiful or this great all the time. But it's not real.
And that has some validity in it, because I saw some footnote information about some of these influencers that have like billions of followers or millions of followers. Mm-hmm. A lot of those are paid bots. They're not real. But we think they are because we don't know to ask the question,
right.
Are those real? We just don't ask the question. We accept, look how many people, she must be onto something. I got to be like her. I'm going to imitate her. I'm going to be like her. And it's like, what are we doing? What are we doing? That's like nuts. All right, you were going to talk about Spark, and I got you off track there, because that, I think, is really, after you can find your fun, she tells you what to do about it.
Yeah, well, she has this plan called Spark, and we can go through the steps, but it stands for space, pursuing passions, attracting fun, rebelling, and keeping at it. So I thought these were all excellent. There's chock full of good takeaways and inspiration. So part 2 of the book is really where it's at, in my opinion. Fun stuff. So space, she goes on a little bit more to talk about how to break up with your phone. We've talked about, when we do make space from our phone, now we have some time to think about what we're doing, where we make our choices and spend our time. But she also talks about removing physical clutter. She talks about how she Marie Kondoed her place.
Mm-hmm. Help me.
Help me.
And
I like it laughing.
I've noticed, so we have a big house, and I've always wanted a big house.
Now you're wondering why.
Where we like our space. But then I go to other people's houses, and I'm like, it's so much easier to clean your house. Right. So I think that's the idea behind decluttering, is that we're just making more work for ourselves, the more things that we have. So that's my big takeaway of Marie Kondo. And she kind of even says, as you're making space, you might feel dead inside. This is not really the part that's fun, but it's necessary to open up more room for fun. So I appreciated that. And that's also where she talked about her planner, I think, how her planner helped her make space for more
she sort
fun.
of joked about the fact that but I do use one.
Yeah. Well, she talked about how when her friend first introduced her to the planner, she was laughing at her friend. This thing is huge, heavy, like an encyclopedia, and then she said, and then I started using it and it changed my life. So, I want to find out. I haven't gone into the book enough to see what planner she's using, but I want to find out what planner that is, because I think it could add some ease.
Yeah, well, I think
to my own life.
The part that she liked about it was it made her narrow down to maybe 5 things to do that day, because otherwise our list can be endless, and then we think we always should be doing more.
Right, and then that puts us in a state of overwhelm, which is a form of fear.
Paralysis.
Yeah, and
fear.
So having those shorter lists, I think a lot of it has to do with getting real with yourself and saying, from how my life looks and what my priorities and obligations are. I mean, you have young children. Obviously, your children are a big priority, and things come up that change your schedule.
Right.
Right? So, from that perspective, what can I realistically put on this to-do list, right, or my outcome list, and know that I can accomplish, instead of saying, oh, let me put these 15 things on here, with knowing I'm going to be so burned out
And then
if
you're
I
gonna be
try and do this.
defeated that you didn't do it.
Exactly.
And that your intentions and your behaviors aren't together, so you have this cognitive dissonance, and that doesn't make for happiness.
No, it doesn't. And then you start beating yourself
Yeah,
up.
like, I can't do this, and I just got to give up. Okay, that gets to rebellion. Wasn't that the R?
Yeah, I love to the rebellion.
Yeah, let's go to can we go to rebellion?
We can skip ahead to the rebellion.
Or, if we need to go through the others, we can.
Go ahead, rebel.
Have at it.
Eleanor, you rebel.
So she starts this chapter with William James, The Gospel of Relaxation, saying the need of feeling responsible all the livelong day has been preached long enough.
There you go.
I
that's just what
loved that when
just-
I read that. I was like, hallelujah.
Yeah, we preach it. Yeah, and a lot of us Americans are very responsible. I don't know if this is cultural to us or other cultures as well, but I think Americans are having more trouble right now. And the individualistic nature of what we kind of found ourselves on, but then again, our human nature is individualistic as well. So there were some really good things that we could develop another time, but back to rebellion. Things that you can rebel against. You ready, Tim?
Oh, yes.
Let's see if you've rebelled against convention. Are you wearing a three-piece suit?
Not now, no.
How about tradition? She brings up the Thanksgiving meal.
I loved that.
Have you done that? Have you rebelled against Thanksgiving?
Not yet, but I might do that this year.
My son has been begging for this, and I thought, maybe this year I'm going to let him lead us in rebellion.
Mm-hmm.
He says, "Mom, let's just order Chinese." I don't want to spatchcock that turkey again. You got to. It's tradition.
No, you don't have to.
No, you don't.
No.
That's what she talks about. And what she said in her family is they gave it up on Thursday, and they had Chinese.
And
But
the
then-
reason they did it was because it wasn't fun. It was
Right.
more pressure and work to get it done on that day than if they could just celebrate the next day.
Yeah, and they did
Right.
they did it on Friday instead of Thursday.
So make up your own tradition.
So they still had turkey.
Yeah.
So Thanksgiving, no, we still will have Thanksgiving
You're
on
not gonna
Thursday. No, because that's
no
just
rebellion.
That's
Those
our
are no
thing.
fun.
Tradition.
But for Christmas, we are a Christmas Eve family, not a Christmas Day family. So the big celebration is Christmas Eve. Christmas Day is just, okay, let's get together and eat. But Christmas Eve is the actual celebration.
Okay, so you guys have rebelled against tradition and convention. What about beliefs or formality and perfectionism? That's the one I think we should really rebel against, this concept of perfectionism.
I've been working really hard at that for the past several years.
Yeah. I mean, I think we should set high expectations, don't you?
Oh, absolutely.
I'm not
but
against that.
I think it's, a culture of progress, not perfectionism.
That's but we still need to set some standards.
Absolutely. I think you need to have standards, yet at the same time, I know that I've put pressure on myself for things to be perfect, and then when they're not, here comes the inner critic. And really it's about, I think, doing your best. Your best doesn't mean that it has to be perfect.
Yeah.
And I think you can
and that-
sleep at night when you've done that, because you can say, okay, I didn't hit the mark, but I did the best I could do in the moment, and that we're there. And the moments are another thing she talks about.
I just moved the mark.
Yeah, but I think, even with parenting, you want to be a perfect parent. None of us are perfect parents. And we weren't parented perfectly. But that idea that I actually tried to be the perfect parent. At the moment, I made the best decision I could with the information I had, and it was wrong, but I did the best I could. You gotta give yourself permission to fail and permission to not
Make
be
mistakes,
perfect.
yeah.
Not be perfect. And that's being kind to yourself, which is some other books that we've been reading.
Well, in the context of fun, too, right? Like some of the things that hold me back from having fun is, wanting to be perfect in how I come across to others, right?
Mm.
Like, I don't want to make a mistake or be silly or what are other people going to think of me?
Mm-hmm.
So ditching perfectionism helps
Liberating.
me, be more authentic and have fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, you just talked about rebelling against adulthood when you went running off the pier.
Right, yeah.
and said, I'm not responsible for you all. I'm in the water. And then expectations. What about that one? Do we set those on ourselves? Maybe. I sometimes wonder about. We expect a lot of ourselves. Where'd that come from? Is it internal, or is it because other people expected it of us? And I think it's internal. I think somewhere along the line we've accepted this idea that. There's an expectation that I will behave a certain way or accomplish certain things.
I think a lot of that is learned. I think.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. Because I think we need to figure out where does that expectation come from.
I think a lot of it comes from society. When you're growing up in school and your parents.
You're expected to be on time.
You're expected to
go to work,
behave a certain way, act a certain way.
Have kids by a certain age, get married by a certain age.
So I think then we internalize it. But I think a lot of it is put upon us by society and the culture that you live in. So if we examined other cultures, are their expectations different? That would be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't remember her developing that so much, but she did bring it up. And then this idea is one for me: responsibilities and obligations. We can rebel against that, but it takes a strong person to.
Yeah.
I'm obliged to do this. No, I don't want to do it. That's that no that so many times we say yes to commitments
Right. We
that
need to
do
go.
not bring us joy or fun.
If that's your issue, you need to go back and listen to the Boundaries the Boundaries podcast, and then the Greg McGowan. What was his?
Willpower? No, essentialism.
Essentialism.
Yeah, she talks about him too.
Two
Yeah.
great books on making space and rebelling against expectations and saying no.
Well, once you get it rebelled against, then you just got to keep it going.
Yeah.
And she's got a toolkit. She's got a plan for play. Those little steps you talked about, microdoses. It doesn't have to be hours of fun. It can be just microdoses of fun. Don't forget about those. And then that thing that I just mentioned about being kind to yourself. It's kind of how she pulls it all together and in part 2 of her book, which I recommend.
I do too.
As Eleanor Russell of 360 Health.
And
Making Healthy Happen.
And where can we find you?
At 360health, 4u.com.
And I'm Kristen Norton of Well Balanced Nutrition. You can find out more at wellbalancednutrition.com.
And I'm Carolyn Bennett-Sullivan from Soft Golf at Tanglewood Park. And you can find us at softgolf.net.
And that's Tanglewood Park, Forsyth County, North Carolina, USA.
That is right.
And we're so happy you could join us today for this conversation. Thank you for reading along with us.
Yeah, my pleasure. It was a great book, and
We'll be talking about it, won't we?
absolutely, absolutely. And it's given me a lot of ideas as to changes that I want to make in my own life, and really how fun really should be a priority. Even though I co-own a fun game, it's, you still have to make it a priority in your own life.
Well, yeah, and I imagine since it is a work for you, you really have a difficult challenge to keep it fun.
Absolutely,
Right.
because it's a business, and we're all business owners here, and we know that sometimes the business takes over.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Well, keep reading with us, and thank you, Catherine Price, for writing another good book for us to read.
And if you're interested in this book and don't have it already, go to the Health Geeks Book Club or healthgeekspodcast.com. Go to the bookstore, and you can buy it right there. Yes, we make a little bit of money on it, but it helps us keep this going. healthgeekspodcast.com.
And instead of thinking of fun as an unnecessary indulgence, we hope that you put it on your to-do list and as a requirement for health and happiness.
The views and opinions stated in this podcast are solely those of the contributors and are not necessarily those of our distributors or hosting company. This podcast is copyrighted, and no part can be reproduced without the expressed written consent of Kristen and Eleanor.